Good. Denver's rolling. Sunshine, you can see coming in the windows. Yeah, we're doing good here.
No B League, but this isn't a B League show. We've got some A+ guests here. First off, going for two's own Matthew. How are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, you're giving me too much credit there. I don't know if I'm
A+ guest.
I'm the fill-in. Let's not give too much credit to me. I'm the backup QB. I was sitting on the bench, see what I can do, and hopefully I don't turn the ball over that much. So
we've seen some miracle performances from the bench before, so I don't think we're going to quite need that tonight. But Brad Harvin from Full Press Coverage Jaguars. How are you doing?
Hey, doing great. Happy to be here. Much like Matthew, just kind of calling in from the bullpen here. I'm a little older, so it took me a little longer to limber up. But yeah, let's roll. Let's get it going.
Wise experience, we'll say. As for that, it was quite an experience this weekend. Really, the finishes for the 1:00 games, and of course the Sunday night game, and some of the fantasy performances throughout. Before we get into all that, of course, I'm always going to talk the Monday night preview, and of course any questions that may arise from any of our listeners. So, looking at this Monday night game, we've got Bears and Rams in LA, right? LA is the home team. And I didn't already make a mistake right off the bat.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay. Again, according to BUSR, and of course, go to busr.com/going-for-2 for your 20% bonus offer when joining. You can bet on this game tonight even. Again, sign up at busr.com and place your bets. And the odds that they're showing right now, over under 45. Pretty low. For comparison's sake, I believe the highest game this week was the Texans-Packers at 57. So just range of where Vegas projected this week. And the Rams are favored at home by 6. And that line's remained pretty consistent. I know Dan, who's not here, but still filled us with a great show sheet, put the notes that the lines basically stayed the same. The Rams have been 6-point favorites for a while. Hasn't really been any movement. Half a point on the over-under is about the only change that we've seen in the last 24 hours. So injury report, I guess the big one to report right now is Tyler Higbee inactive. So he'll be out. Expect a bigger role from Gerald Everett. Anyone who has him and can still play him, he'll be worth a play. I guess the other one to look out for was Robert Woods. Has anyone heard anything about Woods and his availability?
I've not seen, no.
Okay. Yeah. So we might have to wait till about maybe a half hour before game time or so. All right.
They go Roto World, but otherwise no, as of this moment now.
So, a couple of stats here. Again, thanks, Dan, for these. Rams are 14-4 at home since 2018. I believe that's the year McVay took over. And they are somehow on top of the NFC North with a 5-1 record. Yeah, I know. It's, as a Packers fan perspective, I'd say, it's probably going to be a close race most of the year. I know the Bears and Packers play week 17, so the division may very well come to that week if neither team separates themselves in the meantime. Bears are undefeated on the road, average of 26.6 points on the points per game on the road. Unfortunately, the offense, it's a lot of it, 26.6. I'm trying to think, that's not outstanding numbers. That's not horrible either. It's probably right in line with league average. What do you all think about that?
Slightly above. I'm going to take a look. I think last season, outside of the Ravens, averaging 28 or plus more. I think that's about league average, maybe a little bit more, but I'd say it's a good amount total. But in pre-show, I told you guys I'm not a big fan of this game, so someone's going to have to sell me on it. I don't really like a lot of the pieces here. I'm a little low on basically everyone across the board when I rank this week. Now available on goingfor2.com. Always be plugging, right?
On brand.
Yeah, the 26.6, that is definitely something we would take down here in Jacksonville, although we did put up 29 yesterday. 26.6 would be a welcome surprise, especially on the road. I think it goes to show a lot with Chicago kind of falling behind early, really having a battle back. And looks like they do have a few of the pieces that I'm sure we'll get to later on that they can be some impactful players.
How many? Is it like just 2 or 3 road? It's just 2 road games, isn't it? Haven't they been home most of the time?
For Chicago?
Yeah.
I can look that up. That's a great question. Let's
So I
take
think it's Detroit and Carolina. I think were the 2 road games they played.
They have played on the road 3 times: Detroit, Atlanta, and Carolina. That's in week 3,
So,
week 1, week 3, and week 6.
Yeah, that's gonna. I think it's a skewed number for them, especially the Atlanta game. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know that they're going to be able to at least come close to that number today.
Yeah, their home scores have been pretty terrible, 20 or less.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, Indianapolis, were at weeks 4 and 5, and Tampa Bay currently is one of the teams I think is one of those like complete teams in football. Indianapolis is just, you kind of don't score on them. But at the current moment, like I'd agree, you know, their away totals, the Lions, the Falcons, though, and the Panthers are not typically offenses I consider really quality, especially Lions and Atlanta. Atlanta currently one of the bottom 3 in points allowed, and opposing quarterbacks or fantasy points is one of these, you know, you want to matchups go against. So I kind of see what you're saying there. They're not overall a team that should be scoring 26 points a game, but their away opponents have been allowing them to do so. So I do agree with you on that one.
Well, I think we know Matt's answer on most of these. We'll get to some of these props for over/under here. Halftime, again, well, you know, assuming you're taking the under on the 45 for the game total and probably also the 22 at halftime.
Yeah, it's close. That's really close. But yeah, I really don't like because the big thing for me is the Bears' strength right now, running. Right, you're not gonna be able to run on them, and then how inconsistent Goff has been. He does not like pressure. The Bears bring big pressure. I have not liked what I saw out of Kupp for about 2 or 3 weeks, and Robert Woods, if he's not getting rushing touchdowns, which has been kind of just the fluke thing that's been adding on to his totals. I don't love this game. If I were to take a side in it, I have to lean Chicago, and I'm very not optimistic on that call at all. I'm not a betting man. I am just a purely fantasy man. So, so someone better talk on that one.
For things to say, Jay, first off, welcoming you to the team, Matt. I guess your first official video performance.
Yeah. So far, I haven't, made the stream crash or people yell at us. So that's an A+ in my book.
And Jay loves to talk. He always got great things to say. 10 points from Nick Foles tonight, my dube. So 10 fantasy points. You'll need what? I mean, if you get 2 touchdowns and 100 yards, you cover that. I guess 2 touchdowns against the Rams, is that going to happen for Foles?
Yeah, I got my most important league. I'm going against Robinson, so like he's pretty locked in for a score, considering how my league has gone that year. Most points against, most points for. So I'm doomed. So I think Jay is A-okay.
I think he's going to like you even more after that. So again, looking at some of these, so we got the Rams team total at 25.5, Bears at 19.5. Anyone want to say anything either under, over, or these lines about right for both teams? No one wants to say anything.
No, I opened the floor. I was like, I talked too much already.
Yeah, I think you said 25.5 for the Rams.
Yeah,
I think there's I would lean towards the over on that. I know Goff has definitely been up and down, hit and miss. It does hurt that Higbee's not going to be there, his safety valve. But I'm looking for and I know Kupp's been disappointing the last couple of weeks. I'm looking for him to bounce back a little bit tonight. I'd like to see on a personal level. I'd like to see Woods have a nice game and put up some points. But it is going to be tough sledding against the Bears front seven, trying to get a running game going. So there is going to be not only pressure coming from from the Bears defense, but there's going to be pressure on Goff to perform and perform at a high level tonight. But I like them to take the over 25.5.
Okay. Maybe. And what do you think about the Bears? Do you think the 19.5 is too low, or do you think that's proper respect given to the Rams defense?
If I could get my mute button to work, I think it's that's going to be tough. I mean, with Foles back there, of course, I'm a little bitter being down here in Jacksonville and what happened last year with Foles. But if he can somehow get Robinson open, if kind of take advantage of an aggressive play by Ramsey, both former Jaguar players, two of my favorites. But maybe he can sneak by him, get down the seam, get long, use his length, and hopefully get some scores. But 19.5, I would lean to the under on that. I'm thinking they're going to score about 17. A lot of that's because of the bitterness towards Foles.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'm bitter about the Bears just in general. Gladys, what do you think about either of these teams' point totals or the combined over under of the game? Anything that you feel is outrageous? Do you think all the numbers are pretty spot on and tough to call either side?
I think that the Rams total is higher. I would go under. I think people are discounting the Bears secondary. Fuller, who hasn't had any interceptions, but he hasn't allowed any big plays through the secondary. I think it's going to be an extremely low-scoring game. I would go over on the over-under as a whole. I would go under because both secondaries, even if Jalen Ramsey, even if you discount or take Jalen Ramsey out of the equation, you still have Darius Williams back there, who, although he got burnt last week, that was the first touchdown he's allowed. So it's going to be a run game. The question is for the Rams, is it going to be Henderson or Akers? And for the Bears, is David Montgomery going to be able to be efficient as a quick out valve in a passing game? Mm-hmm. And if he's not, I'm going to go way under. And I don't think he is. I think Aaron Donald is just going to blow up that offensive line and not allow any movement at all. So I would say, what did the Bills have, like 6 field goals yesterday? I'm going to go the Bears are going to have like 7 field goals and the Rams are going to have like a touchdown and 3 field goals. I just don't see much red zone efficiency coming from either of those teams.
Our co-host Dan still getting in the comments. More fantasy points rest of the season, Dak or Nick Foles. I think he's accomplishing a lot there. A, making fun of Nick Foles. B, he's as a Giants fan getting on Cowboys fans' nerves, just reminding them that their quarterback's out for the year, and of course, just he wants to show up too. So we miss you, Dan.
We miss you.
I think it was going into this week. I think he was still leading the league in passing yards. I think that was pretty impressive with how different that team is now under Dalton. And unfortunately, what happened in the game against. But yeah, I just want to real quick on the Bears. I can't really they haven't allowed over 250 yards passing since week 1, and they faced off against Stafford. They faced off against Ryan, Brady. Whatever you think of Carolina right now, which I think is an offense on the rise, and they didn't even get to 200 yards passing there. I really don't. Again, I don't like this whole game. This feels like a 16-10 sort of grind fest. Kind of what I thought San Francisco and New England was going to look like, which didn't end up being because San Francisco just really punched them in the teeth there. But this game, I think the only player I have any good feeling about is Robinson. Anything else is totally just up in the air because when the defenses are this really impactful, I think it's just touchdowns that are at a premium, and that's a real problem because it's going to be someone's going to get that lucky score. And if it's not your guy, you're going to feel really bad about the whole game in total.
Yeah, I think the only person fantasy-wise that I would play in the game is Jimmy Graham, actually. I think that he commands that red zone. I think Graham would probably get 1 touchdown, and that would be good. But, of course, I can't play Jimmy Graham because I have Tyler Higbee, in my lineup right now, and no one to put in. So, but Jimmy Graham is the only one I would have any confidence in playing in this game, fantasy-wise.
Okay, so moving on. Maybe I guess Sean Sullivan's commenting to the listing the quarterbacks the Bears are facing, and they ain't Goff, right? I would, if there's any argument to make for the Rams, it's not even Goff. It's that it's Sean McVay, and you trust him as an offensive mind more than any of those other teams' offensive coordinators probably combined. But we'll be nice and just say, more than any of those teams' offensive coordinators.
I like Cutter. I'll say that. At least Cutter. It's the only one I can for passing wise. That's it.
Yeah,
because he is the passing guy. One of the typically strongest in terms of like neutral pass situations. He's the guy who wants to throw downfield. So
true. Yeah, I've seen that with the Falcons and the Buccaneers in both his tenures with those teams. So these are a few of the over-unders that Dan highlighted. Total touchdowns for the game, 5.5. I think he might have. I'm guessing he probably highlighted this because is this an obvious under? Maybe more obvious than any of the points.
Yes.
Yeah. I think Gladys and I if we get to 2, I think we're cool with that.
Yeah.
I think Gladys said 1. The Bears wouldn't, and the Rams would get one touchdown and a bunch of field goals. So
a bunch of things.
Yeah, like a Donald scoop and score sounds more probable than just 5.5 touchdowns. Which means it's totally going to be like the game of the week after we just saw, that fiesta. So
that would be a game of the week, and this week would be something, that's for sure. Okay, so what's more likely? And then this is we'll talk about Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack potential 5.5 sacks. Well, so what's more likely, 5.5 sacks or 5.5 touchdowns?
5.5 total sacks for both teams.
For both teams.
Yeah, I would go 5.5 sacks.
I would like that. Yeah, take that over the touchdowns.
And the touchdowns is combined. It's not per team. It's total of the game. Just to
clarify.
But I think that are we all in agreement? Go with over on the sacks and under on the touchdowns.
I would prefer that. Yes. Again, there's no certainties in football, but that feels better. So I'm going to lock that one in if I had to do so.
Just quickly, Goff passing statistics. He's at 247.5 yards. Nick Foles at 249.5. Basically right there, just under 250 for each. 1.5 touchdowns each and half an interception each. Again, over under anything that stands out to anyone, or are these kind of a bit trickier here?
If I had to, under over for Goff, and then for Foles. I think Foles hits the over on the yards. Is that weird?
If again, you betting into the Rams winning and the Bears having to be behind and having to throw more.
And I think
I can get that.
I don't feel someone say something about Foles because man, I definitely don't like Goff. I'll say that I don't like the Rams side. I think the Bears win. It still sucks, but the Foles side is tricky because again, I do agree. Graham I do like. And Robinson is the most talented player, I think, on the field offensively. So past that, what do you have to look in? And it's like secondary options past those guys. I do like Montgomery. If he can be an outlet, cool. If that doesn't really materialize, then he doesn't get to the 250 yards passing. So I think Gladys said she wasn't very fond of them being able to outlet the ball. So I think that's more of a try and lean towards under. For Foles, at least. Take a look.
I have confidence in Robinson's yards after catch, though, and I have confidence in the Graham. I would go over on Foles. I actually go over on Foles.
On the yards.
On the yards.
Okay.
Yeah, the touchdowns. What was the touchdowns? 2.5.
It's 1.5 for both. And it just says touchdowns, so I assume this also includes rushing touchdowns from either quarterback.
Oh,
Foles has a rushing touchdown. Oh, he does. Oh, what?
Well, I mean, and then just based on usage, I think it's more likely Goff.
I would go. Cooper Kupp hasn't really been looked good. Like in that slide, he hasn't. I would go under on Goff and over on Foles, which kind of sounds weird because I trust Sean McVay way more than I trust. But I just don't. I just trust the Bears defense. The Bears defense, I think, no one's talking about. It's the good defense that no one is talking about. And I see them holding the Rams and McVay at bay. I just don't.
It has been a defense they've struggled against historically.
Yeah, I just don't trust, and I don't trust Goff either. He's just, if they start rushing him and McVay can't get into him as quickly as he needs to, he's toast. I mean, Khalil Mack, he's no Aaron Donald, but he's close. And if he's healthy and he's playing, which I haven't seen that he isn't yet.
Yeah, I'm just looking for that right now.
I know it's questionable.
By the way, I did look at the injury report. It looks like Robert Woods didn't even have a questionable designation. So ignore all my concerns that he may not be playing. He missed practice Friday, but then because it's a Monday game, they've still practiced Saturday, and apparently he was limited, and he doesn't carry a designation. So Robert Woods is playing. But yeah, looking for
the only is Jalen Ramsey the only ex-Jags in that game? Isn't there another one?
Well, Nick Foles. You're just talking about just on the Rams.
Yeah, I don't really count Nick Foles as an ex-Jag.
Alan Fowler? Yeah.
Oh,
Allen Robinson.
Robinson.
Wow.
Is Dante Fowler still at the Rams?
Breaks my heart to say that. Love the guy down here. Yeah, he was here. Put up ridiculous numbers with Balake Bortles. In fact, so and then he got hurt, and they didn't want to re-sign him.
Can I ask a question real quick that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but to Dan? So do people in Jacksonville like Doug Marrone? Is that why he still has a job?
No, I think the owner. I don't know what's going on there. It's I mean I wrote an article recently on for Full Press, really just a rant that enough was enough. That after they go out and lose to the Chargers, they should just cut bait with Marrone and Caldwell. Just get rid of it. I mean, it was very opinionated. I mean, they're going into the bye week. Let's just get it over with. But no, they're not going to do it. I'm not sure the owner's afraid to pull the plug, and I don't get it at all. And the fact that he is backing up the defensive coordinator Todd Wash is just absolutely beyond me. They've given up over 30 points 6 straight games. That's got to be some kind of record, or get a set of steak knives or something like that for that. But yeah, it's definitely an enigma down here.
I
I think you hit it. Everything I've heard is that it's just, the ownership is not necessarily too lazy, but they just can't be bothered to right now.
Too busy with the wrestling.
Well, they don't. Well, just it just sounds like there isn't really a hands-on run by the ownership, which is sometimes we say that there's some teams that are overrun by the owners, and rarely does that ever work. So in a sense, it's good, but the problem is he hasn't put the proper people in place, and it's just kind of, again, doesn't seem like he can be bothered with it. So yeah, I don't expect much to happen in season. Seems like anything will happen after the season.
Dallas feels like that right now. I'll say that. Like Mike McCarthy, I hated the signing going in. I like the roster, and I thought McCarthy was like, if you couldn't get it done with Rodgers, and Rodgers felt like the head coach for that team, it felt like a problem. And we share our last name. Right? He's not invited to the family barbecue because he keeps messing up for a team that looks like it should have gone to the Super Bowl. And I'm not even a Cowboys fan. I'm a Falcons fan, first and foremost. And I'm mad for Cowboys fans because I thought that was a team that was going to run the table in a sense. They looked like they were locked and loaded. I liked some of the additions they made on the defense side. I know they lost I don't know if Dontari Poe was still active, but the other one they had from the Bucs who got injured in the preseason, name is escaping me. But it looked like they were going to improve that run defense and the overall scheme of what was going to go down Dallas. And that didn't work out. And we're seeing major red flags happening for the Cowboys. And also, I'm going to go under on Foles because it took him 42 pass attempts to not even get to that mark against Indianapolis and Tampa Bay. And I think they're just as good as Chicago defensively. So I'm going to go under, over. I think all the interceptions, no touchdowns, awful game. I'm sticking to it.
By the way, Associated Press tweeted out that Khalil Mack is active. So,
okay,
I think of the quarterback ones, I feel most confident in over on interceptions on both. I think a half interception, I could see both quarterbacks throwing multiple picks. So, I think that's the one I would push to. The yards are really tough. I think they've set both well. But yeah, just talking to some more players. I know Dan highlighted Montgomery at 3.5 receptions, and Cup and Woods receptions are at 4.5 each. I think Dan's highlighting both of those stats to saying, those are obvious overs. Are you in agreement there? 3.5 receptions for Montgomery and 4.5 for each of Cup and Woods.
When it comes to Cup and Woods, I mean, once again, it all depends on if Goff has the protection. If he's able to find the time, I think both those marks for Woods and Cup can be over. With Montgomery, I know we've kind of talked about him being the safety valve. 3.5. I mean, I think, I like the over there as well. I think he could find some space in the flat, find some third downs, maybe even early downs on a screen pass or something like that. So yeah, I like the over on all three of those, and can definitely see why they're highlighted on your sheet.
I think the one I'm not going to go over on is Woods. He'll be the under for me. Cup and Montgomery is a different story. Shorter passes will rule the day, I think, in this one. I think if anyone has more than 2-point-something seconds to make a pass, which is for some teams a lot of time, I think that's going to be, again, at a premium. Cup, a little bit shorter routes, a little bit closer, a little more safe in what his route tree is, for what they're doing there. I think Cup has the better game here on that terms. Yardage, different story. Touchdowns, different story. But just pure receptions, I think I'm going to take Cup as the only over of those three. Otherwise, yeah, don't like it.
Gladys, what are you thinking?
I like Montgomery's 3.
3.5.
But Cup and Woods, so last week against the 49ers, Woods had 10 targets and 4 receptions, and Cup had 9 and 3. And I think that the Bears front is better than a Nick Bosa-less 49ers front. So I would go under on Woods, and I would push on Cup, because I just don't think Goff is going to have enough time to throw. And so the slot is going to be where he's going, or Henderson, not even Henderson. The slot's going to be where he's going. And so I would go over on Cup to get those quick passes out. But I don't think he's going to have time to target or to get to Woods. So under on Woods, push on Cup, and over on Montgomery.
And with the Montgomery 3.5, and Gladys and Brad, this is more for you, both picking over. He's also at 26.5 receiving yards. So assuming he hits, those 4 receptions, are we confident in his ability to get 27 yards off 4 catches, or do we think that the dump offs will be just so quick and in the backfield that 4 catches might that might only muster 20 yards, might not get to that 26.5?
Yeah, I'm pushing on that. I'm 26. I think that's his ceiling on receiving yards. I think it's going to be just an ugly game. I think it's going to be a short pass here, tackle, try to run, tackle, kick. Of course, now it's going to be like 45 to like 50.
Yeah.
But yeah, these defenses are just so good. Both defenses are so good. And Aaron Donald is such, I don't see anyone on that offensive line that's going to be able to stop him.
Or in the NFL.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to Montgomery, I think what you're looking at, if you're going to try to get to 26 yards, he's going to have to make somebody miss not once but possibly twice on a tackle, break free. I don't see that happening. So yeah, I like the under. I mean, I do like the more than 3.5 on the receptions, but I don't think it's going to amount to much of anything.
Yeah, and banking on, he just needs to make the catches, not so much take anything after it. So go with the receptions, less strong on the yards. Yeah. I was kind of feeling that as well. Both running backs, in this case, I guess it could be any running back for the Rams, but David Montgomery and Darrell Henderson both at 55.5 rush yards. Both of these pass rushers are great. Both of these run defenses are great. I'm thinking under on both of those. 55 yards is probably quite a bit, especially for Henderson, just because we're not. I'd feel more confident in Montgomery because we know he's going to be the only one getting work, where they could easily split in Malcolm Brown or Cam Akers if things get ugly. But I don't really feel confident in going. I'd go under on both, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Montgomery's only hit twice over 50 yards. And that one was the first game where he had 82. Then I'm going under. I'm going under on Montgomery. I don't know who the running back du jour is going to be on the Rams. So thanks, Sean McVay, for that. And I would go under on that because it's maybe combined. All three of them will have 56 yards.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe. Yep. Agreed.
And I could see Darrell Henderson having fantasy success if he scores a touchdown. But yeah, I think the yards are going to be really hard to come by. On top of the quarterback scoring for interception, that might be my favorite player prop, actually, is going under on Henderson for rush yards. Then a couple of receivers, and things I think most people have highlighted. I think Gladys especially concentrated on Robinson at 72.5 receiving yards on 5.5 receptions, and Jimmy Graham 3.5 receptions.
Graham, I kind of like that one. But Robinson, as I told top of the show, in my most important league, I need that boy to get less than 15 total fantasy points. So I'm going to go under by default.
Although 6 receptions for 73 yards, that would be under, I think. Well, I guess you have to be. It'd be 13. That'd be 13, right? So.
But I don't even want to put it into the ether. If I keep it home right now with saying, let's go under. This game's bad. Everyone's bad. They're awesome. Graham, I kind of like. But you know what? I'm gonna stick true to the under because it has to get both. I think the 5.5 receptions is what actually does it for me. The yards a little bit different because even talking about Montgomery before, I think what you're hoping for that Montgomery to hit on the 26.5 yards, you want like a 3rd and 17. You want Foles to get sacked big, and then it's just a surrender dump off. If he gets 9 yards on reception, that's an easier punt, and they're going to be looking a little bit better than they were back on their own 35. It's a little bit better at their own 44. The punt and all that fun stuff, right? But 5.5 receptions, I think, does it for me where I don't like that. He's getting the targets. I think double digits in all but one game since Foles has taken over. But you're still not seeing the catch percentage that you kind of like. I'm going to look up just so I don't look like a total jerk.
Who are we talking about, Robinson or Graham? You're talking about Robinson?
Robinson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's he had 9 for 5 last week, 10-7. It's like I said, it's still Allen Robinson, but I think the reception total, I think what does it for me. The yards, a little bit different. It's a little strange, but how much do you think? I'll ask you guys. Do you think they're going to move him to the slot? Do you think they're going to move him around? Do you think they want to try and avoid Ramsey, or do you think they're going to just run at the wall and see what happens? Because I think that's how this game changes, because Ramsey's actually been playing at his normal level. And I think that's a different story here. Do they keep the shadow coverage on Robinson? Because really the rest of the receivers, Anthony Miller has disappeared, and Darnell Mooney has been fine, but fine does not equal Allen Robinson. So I'll ask you guys, do you think Ramsey plays shadow coverage tonight, no matter where they put Robinson?
I feel like when there's I remember, I think the Dallas game against Amari Cooper, I feel like he shadowed in the whole game. I think if as you've singled out, Allen Robinson's clearly the number one threat. So yeah, I don't know why the Rams would go away from that. I think they're confident enough in everyone else's abilities that they'll put Ramsey on Robinson, even if he gives up. Because the disadvantage on there is allowing Robinson to maybe make some catches over Ramsey, but not get so many yards on it. So I kind of like what you're saying there, Matt. Especially if that's the case, that the yards may not get hit, but the receptions might. Just because Robinson's size, right? He's
back when he was down in Jacksonville. His big bugaboo was that he liked shadow coverage, and Jacksonville was like, we don't want to do that. I could be wrong, but I think that's what was a big stink that he made back when he was down in Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. You're the go-to here for that one and all things in teal and green. So, but
yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with Ramsey. I believe he's going to follow Robinson on and off the field. I mean, that's what they're
on the sideline.
That's what they paid him for. He certainly has the talent to do that, and it could be a very nice, intriguing matchup between those two. As I cry and eat my popcorn and watch them.
Be funny if Ramsey did switch over to the Bears sideline and just be standing next to Robinson.
He's like, told me to shadow cover. Like, you go in the blue tent, he's there. Like,
sounds like something he would do. Definitely.
I like that.
All right, so getting to I think that's everything for the Monday night game. Anyone want to predict winners?
There are no winners.
So again, the 6-point favorites I think is a little much for a game, especially that I'm kind of in agreement with everyone. I don't think the scoring is going to be that high, so I don't think the Rams will necessarily separate themselves. So if anything, I think I would take the Bears with the under, thinking that the Rams will probably still win. And again, a Packers fan kind of hoping for that. I'll throw that in the universe. But I don't think the Rams will be able to cover the 6-point spread.
I agree. I would take the Bears with the points.
Yeah, this game, it could still be a good game to watch, but like fantasy purposes, betting purposes, anytime you see good defense go against each other, I think it gets a little bit tougher to predict. Because like last night with the Cardinals and the Seahawks, it's like, yeah, take all the overs. Everything was awesome. Kickers are great. Tight ends are great. The refs probably caught a pass or two. Like that's when you like to see those kind of games. You don't want to see, maybe we get to 6 points by halftime and then, we'll see what happens. But, that's when it becomes an issue.
Well, if I could see Allen Robinson chasing down Jalen Ramsey, that would be awesome.
For a tackle like DK Metcalf last night?
DK Metcalf, that would be great. That would be awesome.
That's not a joke that DK Metcalf can't sprint through a school zone because he would trip the alarms on that one because he's fast. He's so fast.
That was ridiculous. That when they showed where he started, he was in the end zone. That was ridiculous.
It's funny because playing the Cardinals, this seems really similar to Larry Fitzgerald chasing down that pick six in the Super Bowl against the Steelers.
You really had to bring that up. That's great. Thanks, Al. Thanks. It didn't remind me of that at all.
Okay. I mean, wouldn't that remind you of a Steelers winning a Super Bowl? I figured you'd appreciate that memory.
The winning, yes. Larry Fitzgerald chasing that. No, I love Larry Fitzgerald too, but yeah, no.
Okay. Anyway, sorry about that. We'll talk. Okay. Now, again, Cardinals referenced potentially the game of the week. Now, I guess again, that division race has now suddenly gotten closer. I think that's maybe the significance there. But I think this is only the 5th or 6th time in NFL history that 2 undefeated teams played in week 7 or later. So I know as much as Packers fan watching that game, especially once it got caught out of hand, I was definitely peeking more towards that Steelers Titans game. So again, more good news for Gladys there. Steelers do get the win, 27-24. We played this game last week. Now a couple different people here, so it might be interesting to get some answers. Also, different results fantasy wise. So Dynasty, keep, trade, or cut. 3 Steelers receivers: Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster. So we got to keep one, trade one, cut one. How's it going for Dynasty?
I'll give the floor. I got my answers ready, but if someone else wants to go first,
go ahead, Matt.
I am going to cut Juju. To my understanding, Pittsburgh is not going to be bringing him back. If I am wrong, please tell me. But to what I've understand, there are currently no intentions to bring Juju back next year. I think the number 1 receiver has returned for Pittsburgh with Deontay Johnson. I loved what I saw at him earlier this season. I'm like the only guy I think still kind of carrying the torch for James Washington, but that doesn't matter anymore because Claypool's on the scene. If you could trade Juju, fine. But if you really need to cut one, I can't cut Claypool or Deontay Johnson in Dynasty. Just redraft, different story. But Dynasty, Claypool can still probably get you like a 2nd-round pick. And I'm not a big Dynasty boy. This is like my first year playing Dynasty, which is great because I used to work for a site called Dynasty Happy Hour, which is awesome because it's Dynasty in the title. And here I am, a fraud. But I would.
No one knew that till now, though.
Oh no! I told them when I signed up, I was like, I don't play Dynasty. And they're like, that's fine. I was like, okay. So here a fraud says that Deontay Johnson is my keep. I would trade away Claypool and I would cut Juju because again, Pittsburgh was the home for him. I think that's his best value, but 2021 is a different story. James Conner is another one. I don't believe they're keeping either of them. But if anyone has better information, please. I love to be wrong. So
I think it's all about money, right? If either of those players were willing to, really take a pay cut and stay, I'm sure that the Steelers would take the back. But I'm sure both players want to maximize their values. I could see Connor actually being more likely, just because again they've got Deontay Johnson, they've got Chase Claypool. It's not even really. It's and James Washington, of course. Eric Ebron still too, right? But there's not really a step down in tier, right? Like, I mean, maybe even if you consider Juju the best, it's not like a big tier drop between him and Johnson or him and Claypool. And whereas I still think Connor is by far the best running back there. I know they've been giving more work to Benny Snell, especially around the goal line. I know he scored just yesterday, but I could still see them. There's a reason that they give James Conner most of the carries. They view him as the most talented. Maybe it is just, okay, well, we have him, we're going to use him. And if we don't have him, it's not a big deal. But I don't know. I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, Gladys, but I see Conner more likely to return than Juju.
Yes. I mean, the big story was that they were going to draft a running back early to replace Conner, which didn't happen. I mean, Connor's a really good running back, and Pittsburgh loves him, and I think that a lot of it has to do with his story, too. You know what I mean? He's the hometown favorite, and he's good. He has had a couple of injury issues, but he hasn't regressed as much as it was thought that he would this year. So if they're going to, I don't think they're going to keep Juju unless something really crazy happens. I think that's why they drafted Chase Claypool in the mold of, but I don't see them getting rid of Connor. Benny Snell's good, but as he showed in the game where Connor was out, he's not James Conner yet, and he probably will be. He's a different type of running back. Isn't Snell the one from Kentucky? And he had that really great last year, but I don't see them thinking that Snell is going to replace Connor. Pittsburgh has a great system with wide receivers. They always find that diamond in the rough. And so which is why I think it's okay to let Antonio Brown go, although there, of course, now we know were other issues besides him just being a good player. He's like batshit crazy. But the ability to replace a wide receiver is less daunting than to replace a good running back.
So Brad,
I was just going to agree as far as keeping. I would definitely go ahead and keep Johnson. Sorry, I was about to say Washington.
Keep him too.
I would think that there's some value for Claypool out there, so I'd definitely look to trade him. And like Matt, I would cut Juju. And actually, in a recent redraft, I actually traded Juju. Coupled him with I think Aaron Rodgers and was able to get it I want to say
McLaurin. Was it McLaurin and Brown?
Yeah. That league, the wide receivers have just made me mad all year. I gutted the entire wide receiver. I got a whole new crop. We'll see how it shakes out. So I mean, it wasn't a bad. McLaurin definitely had a nice little week this week, and we'll see if he can keep going. But yeah, I'm with you guys. I think Smith-Schuster. I think his days are numbered up in Pittsburgh.
And the context there is you have Kyler Murray at quarterback, so you don't mind letting go of Rodgers, knowing that you've got your quarterback one of the present and future.
Nailing Rodgers for weeks, and finally someone took him. So.
To get a pair of receivers you can put in your starting line, because you mentioned you got rid of Edelman as well. I remember we actually talked about that on the Full Press Fantasy Pod last week. Thanks for letting us talk about your trade in public.
Right. No problem.
So yeah, I think the context of who I think the consensus here is cut Juju. I think I would be inclined to agree. I think the context of if you're going to trade McLaurin not McLaurin, talking about that trade, trade Johnson or trade Claypool is really what your team's trying to do. If you're trying to compete, it does look as though Deontay Johnson is kind of established himself as the number one this year. So I would probably keep Johnson and trade Claypool. going to mortgage a bit of the future for another asset I can use, maybe some more consistency week to week. But if I'm a rebuilding team, I definitely want to hang on to Claypool because I think his value is going to skyrocket. And then I would, in that case, trade Johnson to a contender. So I think context there of where your team's going is important. So I gave a mixed answer, but again, cut Juju is, I think, we're all saying. Not that we're just advised again, I don't think there's anyone who has leagues with all 3 Steelers receivers, but.
One thing with Claypool, it is tough because he just had the 1 target, -2 yards on the weird fumble play, whatever. And, the other 2 players had, I think, 28 targets combined in this one. It's an issue. It's an issue that what's going to be from this week's going on because they have all these options. The backfield seems pretty set with Connor. The one thing Connor has going from Tomlin likes just your last season, we saw it with Bell, just run you into the dirt. And they're doing so. 20 carries on this one. He's getting just massive workloads here. And there was an issue early on was, is the health going to be a problem? As of right now, it hasn't. It can always pop up with Connor. We know that. It has in the past. But the thing with him, he's a good player who's in a great situation. And the offense is operating, I think, the way Tomlin meant it to. It doesn't need to be just one guy. And if it's a problem for them week to week, I don't think they care because they're an undefeated football team. That's the big thing.
The only undefeated team right now. You can hit that victory lap again, Gladys.
Yeah. My team's 6.
Well, and next week it's the Ravens, so we'll see. And the Ravens had this week off, so we'll see what shakes out there.
Absolutely. So just quickly, I guess, so a piece of news that we haven't really touched on yet here wasn't on the show sheet, and I just kind of thought about it. Maybe we should address this is Antonio Brown with the Buccaneers. Does anyone want to take a gander at what they think that means fantasy-wise? Who benefits, who suffers?
If it's true that Brady requested Antonio Brown to come to the Bucs, I think the one person that's going to suffer is Mike Evans. Yep. Out of all of them. His fantasy value, if Brown is the Antonio Brown that we remember, I mean, we got to remember that he's been out for a while too. I would not trade any of them until I see how he materializes. But Mike Evans is going to be the low man on that totem pole, for sure, without a doubt. And it's going to be Brown, Gronk, Godwin, probably Scotty Miller. Is Julian Edelman. So I would sell Evans high before it's apparent that did he only have like 1 catch last week? This week?
Yeah, I actually have his numbers for the games that they were both active in, which is weeks 1, 3, 6, and 7. So in the games that Godwin and Evans have been active, Godwin has 29 targets, 25 receptions, 279 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans has 12 targets for 4 games, 6 receptions, 82 yards, and 3 scores. Compared to when Evans is without Godwin, which is 27 targets, 19 receptions, 267 yards, and 3 scores. He's a touchdown guy. And that's kind of what he is right now because he's had, back-to-back weeks of like 1 reception or 2 receptions and then 1 reception last week. So 3 in 2 games. If you can sell high, and his name value can hold water, immediately. I thought it was not going to be this big of a problem going into the season. He was one of the receivers at the top I think I was most avoiding outside of like Amari Cooper. But I think everyone kind of didn't like Cooper. But yeah, Evans, if you can trade Evans for McLaurin, if you can trade Evans for, I don't think you can get Robinson. If you can trade him for, I don't know, Woods, like in a game that's bad tonight, like I'll take almost anything for Evans. It is like major panic for me.
You willing to give, Evans in a second to get Robinson, even Evans in a first? Like how desperate?
I'll give him like a kidney because it's bad.
Kidneys are worth first.
You only need 1. It's bad.
I'm kidding, folks. Yeah.
So no thanks. No thanks on Mike Evans.
I find it so strange that, through all of this, we'll say I'll be nice and say mediocre quarterback play of Mike Glennon and Josh McCown, Jameis Winston, Ryan Fitzpatrick, 1,000-yard seasons, no problem for Evans. He gets Tom Brady and, really struggling. So it is kind of curious. And I think from a dynasty perspective, this, I wonder if it gets lower now once Antonio Brown starts playing, but I feel like his value is already kind of taking such a big hit. I'd almost be tempted to just hang on to him. I guess if you're a contender, it's really tough to just hang on to someone you don't really have an intent of playing, but just kind of hang on to him, hoping that his value rebounds next year. There's a lot of like win now 1 year rental pieces for the Bucs. Like, so, this receiving core could look entirely different next season. And Godwin might not be there, and may not have Antonio Brown, Gronk, OJ Howard, and Mike Evans might be one of the only guys left standing. So I do think that there's a chance that his value within his career, he's still pretty young. I mean, what is he, 27, 26?
Yeah, 27. So, he's got 4 years left on his contract. That's not good for the Bucs.
And again, though, it might force them to say, well, I guess we got to keep him and let everyone else walk. So I think, I wouldn't necessarily be rushing to sell on him unless you're absolutely competing and you really need to, you can get him to get, again, a really good young piece now that you can or not even, win with. And, again, a Robinson type player. Like if you could package a way to get an upgrade, sure. But outside of that, I wouldn't.
But the Steelers we were just talking about. That seems like a tough one with those guys. Claypool and Johnson. How about to you guys? I opened that one question up. Claypool or Evans. Let's say you're looking towards the future. Or Deontay Johnson now, because Deontay Johnson is close. I think I'd still kind of prefer Evans, but like redraft purposes, we're talking about like the Carolina guys. I think I prefer both of them. Anyone who thinks Adam Gase becomes magically amazing because Gase is just a vampire for talent. But Johnson and Claypool, what you guys, again, not a dynasty boy. I traded a first and a second for Devontae Adams with Tyler Boyd, and I was like, this seems good. So I let you guys decide on that one.
I don't even hate that trade, to be honest. Like, I think like there's value to be had on both sides there, but I mean, again, if I'm selling Evans, I think I'm doing it under the guise of being a competitor, because I'm not selling him because he's washed, he's old, and I want to get rid of him. Like if I'm a rebuilding team, I'm definitely holding on to him. So I would do it. I think I'd be more likely to trade for Johnson, thinking that Johnson might be that one piece I could put in my lineup over Evans to give me consistency every week that could help me win a championship. But I wouldn't, because I think like if you tried to go to someone who's holding Claypool, who's drafted Claypool, been a big fan of them through all these big production. I mean, if you say Evans for Claypool straight up, that's probably not happening. So how much more are you going to have to give to get a piece? I don't know. I don't know that I'd want to pay the Claypool price right now. I don't think.
Well, I mean, I think it's what Evans is too, and he doesn't exactly fit into his strengths. Aren't Brady's strengths. His strengths were Winston's strengths. Mm-hmm. Throw the ball long and catch it, and I'm in the end zone. Where Brady's strength, and I could be wrong, is throw the ball mid and get the yards after catch.
Yep.
And that's not Evans' strength. That's Godwin's strength, and maybe still is Antonio Brown's strength. So I mean, if you think Brady's going to be there for more than this year, I would try to get rid of Evans, but I don't see Brady as a long-term project on the Bucs. I mean, just age-wise, although if they win the Super Bowl, he'll probably stay. I don't know. I just don't think. I think that at the beginning of the year, the reason Evans' draft in fantasy dropped is because when they got Brady, people realized it was Godwin's game if Godwin could stay healthy. And then when Gronk came, and it has taken a while to assimilate to the offense, but it's Godwin and Gronk's game. And if Brown comes in, it's Godwin, Gronk, Brown, Scott Miller. And Evans will just get the occasional 2 targets, 2 catches. Hopefully one of them are in the end zone.
And there's another chance here that, I think if Antonio Brown comes back and he hasn't missed a step, I think he skyrockets to number 1 on the team, because we saw it last year. 1 week of practice and Brady was already looking at Brown's way more than anybody. Yeah, the talent disparity for the rest of the Patriots receivers relative to the rest of the Bucs receivers probably not as, it's closer gap. How Godwin's playing in terms of Brady's game, because I think he can still throw it deep. But a good point of Gladys that Evans isn't going to get separation deep. He's going to get contested catches deep, and that's not necessarily what Brady likes to throw. So, because I remember in the Packers game, Godwin actually was held out of that game too. I think he only had one catch, and it was beat Jair Alexander in double move, open deep, right? And that's where Brady's going to throw deep, is when the guy's open. So that speaks more to Brown and Godwin. So yeah, actually, Sean Sullivan, good question for us. That really good transition time. Could Evans get traded? I mean, could the Bucks? Again, Matt mentioned the big contract. I think that really complicates things.
That's the issue. He's under contract for 4 more years, and it's big. It's big boy dollars. There's a few teams I'd love them to. If we're talking about just straight up, can I put you here? Like the Bills, or the Packers, or I don't know, other good teams that are really good at football.
Well,
Cardinals. And we can, they don't need Christian Kirk. We can just have Hopkins on one side and Mike Evans on the other, and just throw the ball 50 yards. One of them should catch it. They're both 6'5" or something, so they're good. But yeah, it's an issue with they're so locked into what he is. And Brady is not a bomb quarterback. He is a death by 1,000 cuts. We saw that with New England for years. Why was Gronk and Edelman so good? Well, they're going to go down 7 yards. They're going to catch a pass in between the linebackers and the safeties, and it's yard after catch work. It's all efficient stuff that Evans, he's great in contested work, but they're not going to try that really anymore, and you're not seeing them have to focus in on Evans. Godwin runs safe routes. Scotty Miller is a player that closer towards what Brady's comfortable with, and Brady really commands a lot of what they're doing there in Tampa Bay right now. Arians is sure, I wasn't a big fan of Winston. I wanted to go get Brady. Brady, what do you want and think that we can be successful? Because the defense was there last year. The big issue they had, they could have been a 12-win team, Tampa Bay. Winston throws picks on their side of the field, short yardage for the opposing team. They score. Now it's a 40-point, we need to score 40 points because we're allowing our opponents to score 45. That was a problem, and Arians didn't like that. He doesn't really want to focus on one guy. I have this weird stat from the game yesterday in terms of the Tampa Bay running backs and how they split up. Ronald Jones in quarters 1 and 3, 10 touches. Quarters 2 and 4, 4 touches. Leonard Fournette in quarters 1 and 3, 1 touch. Quarters 2 and 4, 16. He has a plan, and the plan is, I don't care about your fantasy team. I don't care about one player. But it's working because the Ravens and the Steelers and the Chiefs are all complete teams on paper, and we knew that going into the season. But man, Tampa Bay is really impressive. Miami Dolphins, really impressive. Jaguars, not as much. Sorry, Florida. That's the only team that hasn't been doing it. But
because we know the Lightning and the Rays have been doing well too. So that whole state.
You're the World Series. It didn't work out yesterday, but the day before with running home, it kind of worked out. But
worked out with the Lightning.
Yeah, and that hockey. Some people like that. I technically not supposed to, but whatever. But yeah, Tampa Bay is really interesting because they have so much potential, and it doesn't need to be focused in on one point. It doesn't have to be a laser. It can just be a shotgun, and they're totally fine with that. Big fan.
Question that Dan put in the show sheet about the Odell Beckham injury and the Browns. Are they better off without Beckham? And who should make a move for him? Should a team try and poach him? Knowing that, okay, we don't know our receiving situation next year, knowing that Beckham, maybe do they swap those big contracts, and the Browns thinking we need a receiver right now? Do they give up Beckham in a pick to get Mike Evans? And the Bucks kind of say it's insurance in case they can't keep Godwin. They still have Beckham under contract. They can figure that out. If they keep Godwin, I don't know about Beckham's dead cap. I don't believe there's very much. So whoever has his contract can easily cut him. So I don't know that it's a contract that's untradeable for the Browns if they're really looking to solidify and make a run this year. Get rid of Beckham for Evans. I know Jason saying that Evans isn't getting traded. And again, I think it's the contract definitely kind of incurs that. But Beckham for Evans, am I nuts?
I don't know if they care about receivers. That's the problem, because Stefanski really likes what he's doing right now because they're successful. They're a 5-2 team. The only teams they've lost to is Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and kind of everyone would think that way. But yeah, Odell is another one. His contract is after next year. There's no. I'm looking at dead cap. It's like $26 million if they cut him like today. Otherwise, I'm looking at Spot Track, and that's what it's saying. If I could be wrong with reading how it is, but this is a team that wants to run the ball like the Vikings, and they're a team that could play like the Vikings, and they've done it like the Vikings, and they have the ability to be the Vikings. I don't know. I don't know who would want him because they tried trading for him and it didn't really materialize. Again, if someone's got better information on that one, please do, because I don't really think that OBJ is a good talent. Some people think that he had one catch make his career. Not exactly, but his attitude matters for a lot of organizations. They don't want to bring in someone like that where it's all about me. Antonio Brown wasn't, we just saw what a player like that looks like, with the Vegas and the Bills, and now him going to the Bucks. He couldn't flame out of the Bucks in a week. That's why I think giving up too much for him is not the smartest move in a lot of senses. But Odell, he said the right things this year. He said, I'm going to be bad. The team wants to run, and we know what the organization wants to do. And he pretty much admit, I'm not going to have a career year. I'm going to have some low numbers, and I understand that's kind of what it's going to be like. He said that in week 2. They knew real immediately that Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, when they re-signed Hunt, it's bad for dynasty. It's bad for fantasy players because he's stuck behind Chubb, and Chubb will always be hampered by Hunt. But the team, they're great against the run this year. They're kind of not allowing too much there, but they're awful against the pass. They're allowing a lot more than they thought they would that way. But, they have some younger pieces defensively, and they really just want to control the ball as much as they can and make it not as hard, because Baker Mayfield's he's fine, and fine doesn't really do a lot in football. But does anyone really think a team would trade for Odell currently? I don't think so.
I think that the Browns are better off without Odell, only because I think that some quarterbacks thrive with lots of mouths to feed. I don't think Mayfield in that system is one that does. And so if he doesn't have to worry about pushing the ball to Odell every 3 or 4 times and just handing it off to Kareem Hunt, or throwing it short to Landry when he gets better, or using Stefanski's, which I don't think they have lately, 2 tight end sets, I think they're better without Odell. I just think that it takes off pressure from Mayfield, if that is a thing, and he thrives better. I mean, when did Odell go down? He went down in the first half, right?
First or second play, from scrimmage, yeah.
He was 0 for 5, and then he doesn't miss another throw. I mean, he reels off 5 touchdowns, and this is without Odell in the lineup. So, yeah, I think the team is better, but I don't see anyone trading for Odell with that contract and with the ACL injury and whatever injury he had last year that he was out, that he had to get. Yeah, he's good, but he's not that good. He's not good enough that you go, oh, he's injured. Yeah, we'll take him because he's going to heal and play for us.
And truthfully, I mean, the Bucks wouldn't do it because, Evans helps them win healthy, obviously infinitely more than Beckham would right now. And not to disparage Beckham because he's not playing, right? So, yeah, that was maybe more of a pipe dream on me, but I'm awake. So, I guess I'm trying to think of any other fantasy news. I know Chris Carson was hurt last night's game.
Carson and Drake. Yeah. So Carson, he seems less likely to miss more than next week. He's got to get the MRI. Kenyon Drake, they're treating it, they said, a high ankle sprain because he damaged some ligaments in his ankle or leg or foot or whatever. They have the bye. So Chase Edmonds would be the number 1 if he wasn't already on a lot of teams, and he should have been already. He's been useful in some instances in a few weeks in the past couple games, but Drake, it's just so I have Drake in 8 of my 13 redraft leagues, And like that kind of sucks. 'Cause he's been not great. And the problem is, one, you go from like 6 targets a game to like 1.5, right?
Yeah.
And then Chase Edmonds wasn't around, and now Chase Edmonds is taking touchdowns, and Kyler Murray is taking touchdowns, and he's like the fourth. He was going to the week, the fourth in the league in terms of rushing yards. He's almost at 500. He's just a few back of like Derrick Henry, I think was like number 1 at 500 something. He's just been good for the football team, but he's not been good for fantasy, like at all. And now him going down on a play where he was trying to do more for his team and get the first down. Like, we have to remember there's like the fantasy world and then there's real life football. And like these sometimes don't really mesh. And Drake is one of those players. Another few players that have been that kind of way this year for like fantasy purposes, like Derek Carr. Derek Carr is the perfect quarterback to think about when you think of a player that is just, he gets the yards, notwithstanding like this last week, but like he doesn't turn the ball over a ton. He doesn't actively try to lose games. He's just never really been good with the touchdowns. I think last year was like, right around 20 touchdowns for the season. That's really not going to push it when you have, Lamar Jackson go and get a touchdown on 9% of his throws, like one of the most ridiculous touchdown percentages in NFL history, while having like 200 less pass attempts. So it's just like Carr is good and you have players who are good, but fantasy, you want players to be great and you kind of want to root for backups to take over because then sometimes people think they're smart, right? You want your sleepers to hit. You want the, like Laviska Shenault, you want the rookies to hit down in Jacksonville, and people love Shenault. And I think they're actually using him a little more better when they're getting him more in the receiving game than doing all the running stuff, which is fun. It's fun, but I think it's better when they do it as a receiver. So I like what I'm seeing out of different players, even though it's not great for fantasy. And the Jaguars is definitely not great for fantasy because every week it's a different guy who's the guy. So fantasy and football sometimes are just totally different situations, and it's a problem.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree. I'll just kind of follow up on that Jaguar thing. I definitely went out and snagged Cole off the waiver wire and plugged him in, hoping for good things out on the West Coast, and he wasn't the guy this week. And I mean, and now there's Chark is disgruntled a little bit as much as he can really get disgruntled because he's such a great guy, but he's definitely kind of speaking his mind a little bit here, and a lot of it has to do with the quarterback play. And so it's hard to know who's going to be the next person. I think I heard that Westbrook tore his ACL, so D.D. Westbrook is out for the rest of the year. But since we're talking about injuries, I was curious, what's the latest on Aaron Jones? I know it was a mild calf strain. Had to it was a game time decision. I mean, I definitely had plenty of time to find a replacement. I mean, I knew I had a bad feeling it was coming, especially against Houston, but I just didn't know if there's any other news as of today or if anybody's heard anything with that.
No, it doesn't sound like it's too serious. He probably would have said if it was a playoff game, he could have played. It seems like the Packers this year, even last year, both seasons under Matt LaFleur have been incredibly patient with players returning from injury. We want to make sure everyone's 100% healthy. So knowing the Packers' upcoming schedule, they play Sunday against the Vikings and then Thursday against the 49ers. I could see them holding Jones out of the Vikings game, knowing they maybe want him, maybe more pressing to get him in for that 49ers contest.
That's why I think he didn't play this week, because I think they thought they were going to roll the Texans, and they did because the Texans are bad. But I think they were pushing internally, I think, to keep him out. It sounds like he wanted to play because then he'd go run for 200 yards and everyone would be fun about it. But they didn't really want him to do so because I know it's a divisional game and you guys like stomping on Minnesota. So maybe he comes back for that. But yeah, San Francisco, like these divisional games matters, the conference games matters. The game down in Houston, where like the spread was like 8. I'm just gonna guess because
it wasn't that high. It was only I think 4.
I thought they would
4.5.
They kind of did.
I think it. The pass rush, the fact that David Bakhtiari was out.
JJ Watt is a shell of his. If Derek Watt wasn't a fullback, he'd be behind him too, as in the Watt hierarchy. It's TJ like way off screen, and then like Derek Watt's over here because he's a fullback, and then like JJ's around here.
I mean, JJ did get a couple pressures, but I was really impressed. Again, this is offensive line talk, right? But Billy Turner, who's not a left tackle, I don't think he's ever played left tackle in his career. I know he's moved around the offensive line in Denver, but the Packers right guard all last year, right tackle this year. Whenever he was on the blind side against Watt, he handled them really well. Watt got a couple pressures against Wagner on the right side. But yeah, I was definitely maybe a little nervous about that. And I guess maybe I also thought that, okay, 4.5, I think it was either 4.5 or 5. They did give the Texans a lot of points. I think that was the one thing that Vegas predicted wrong, was thinking that, Deshaun Watson could get it done against the Packers offense. Truthfully, I was a little afraid of that, knowing that, the Packers do have a hard time with rushing quarterbacks, but I thought they actually handled Watson really well. So, I think quarterback test, the Packers have faced the 2 toughest quarterback tests they will all year, and Tom Brady and Deshaun Watson back-to-back weeks. So maybe the fantasy spin there is the Packers defense for, anyone playing with defense special teams. I think the hardest part of their schedule, the Saints right before the bye week, then the Buccaneers, then the Texans against, again, a rushing quarterback like Watson. I think that was probably the hardest part of their schedule for the fantasy defense. So might be a good defense to go out and invest in.
Yeah,
they got a good pass rush.
Jai Alexander is like he is in the consideration for Defensive Player of the Year. All 3 of their main corners I saw on RotoWire are allowing a QB rating. It's not updated to this week, but last week it was updated to 55 or less passer rating against. That secondary is, you just saw Calvin Ridley and you just saw Mike Evans combined for 1 reception. As the lead receiver, I aggressively ranked Will Fuller very low. I ranked it so low that Fantasy Pros told me, hey, do you know you're ranking him that low? Without that last-second touchdown, it was a bad day in Houston for the Houston Texans. So.
And they played a more zone. Like, Packers tend to mix it up a little more, and they'll put Alexander aggressively on some man coverage. But they played just a full zone across the board the entire game. And so, yeah. I think the only thing hurting Jair Alexander is like quarterbacks rarely ever throw to him. So
I wouldn't
put up the numbers.
No, thank you.
Apparently, it's turned to a Packers show. Yay!
They should have covered Devontae Adams like once. They didn't do that. They didn't really care about doing that. So,
yeah, and it seems like again the Vikings also didn't blanket cover him. They left him one-on-one throughout, and he torched them. So I expect Devontae Adams to do really well again next week.
Yeah.
I had him ranked at wide receiver 2 going into the week. Behind only Hopkins, since they were playing the Seahawks. So I figured that game would turn into maybe not quite the shootout it was, but apparently everything went to Lockett though. So, which I guess we'll end with that. I guess Tyler Lockett and that fantasy performance. I was looking at one of the leagues. I think I have him in one league, and he ended up with, I think, 53 points.
Yeah, I lost 2 leagues because of him.
I'm sure a lot of people lost a lot of leagues. A lot of people won a lot of leagues because of him. So.
47-point differential. So unless David Montgomery goes for 25, I lose. So cool. And we took all the unders and everything too. So yeah.
Now you're regretting it.
So,
but I guess it is getting close to kickoff time. So we'll leave you here, folks. Again, appreciate everyone who joined on. Hi everyone. Hello and goodbye though. This is the end of the episode. But go around the room and everyone can share their Twitter handles and where people can follow them. We'll go with the guest first. The guest here at Going for Two. So Brad, why don't you let people know where they can find you?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks everybody. Had a great time. You can find me at the rundown_BH on Twitter. I also am the full press coverage for the Jaguars editor, and look forward to being on again.
Awesome, Matt. Again, you did again great job in your audio and video debut for Going for Two.
That's true. Yeah, I might be around in other places. We'll see if Jeff keeps me around after tonight. So, hello and goodbye. It's been nice working for Going for Two. Yes, actually, I am picking up the quick reaction for Odell Beckham. So tomorrow I will have an article written, at least if it comes out. It'll be on goingfor2.com. Otherwise, yes, I am the new guy on our Discord. I have my own color because I am new guy. Otherwise, I'm at Methodical1. That's my name, and then the word methodical mashed up, and then 1.
There's a good method behind that madness of that name. I like it.
Yeah. I always, every time someone says methodical, like in football, so like you're going to hear someone tonight say like that was a methodical play by Goff, and he just threw the ball out of bounds or something. I always be
Well,
like,
think of you. Okay. Anytime a play goes out of bounds methodically.
I am at Never Enough GLT on Twitter. On Thursday, there is a Start Sit article on Going for Two on today, although it should have been, today's Monday, it should have been out yesterday, but today I usually write 5 things we've learned from the week, not including the Monday night game because it's usually done before Monday night game, but you can find me here. And Sunday mornings, the Sunday War Room, where we do your starts and sits on DFS. And thank you guys for being on, Matt and Dan.
oh, I was again pleasure. I was like when I said you guys want to have someone else on, I was like, they're good, let them go. I'm always humbled for people taking the time to think of me to come on and have fun and talk some football and make a goof of myself. So it's always good.
That's what we're all about here. Goofy selves. I'm Kyle Sumner at Sumner Says. And again, you can check us out, everything out Going for Two related at Going for Two, goingfor2.com. At Jeff Lambert 77 for the big boss. And, he usually retweets everything Going for Two anyway. So good resource there. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Brad, for joining us. Gladys, as always, I love talking with you. Love having you as a co-host. And again, thank you, listeners, for joining us here on the Going for Two War Room.